relação a como ela é entendida no Ocidente. Qual é o problema nisso?
E estamos ao vivo, estamos lá, entramos. Lucas está mutado para mim.
Eu mutei mesmo.
É isso, beleza. Fala galera, privete todo mundo, como é que vocês estão? Beleza? Eu já estou vendo aqui o JFB, que outro dia peguei no flagra, em outro canal, assistindo lá e comentando, botando os livros lá de referência. E o Júlio César aí, que quase diário, eu já estava quase ligando aqui para a polícia para saber se estava tudo bem com o Júlio César, que tinha 2 lives que ele não aparecia. Tava esquisito isso. E aí, Lucas, beleza, irmão?
Beleza, tudo certo.
E hoje a gente vai ter um programa um pouquinho diferente, galera. Hoje a gente vai ter como convidado o Andrea Lucidi, que é bradaço nosso aqui do canal também. Italiano que vive agora lá na Rússia, tem coberto a guerra da Ucrânia desde o início, né, o conflito. E a gente hoje vai falar sobre as eleições da Bielorrússia, né? Tirar algumas dúvidas, ver aí com o pessoal o que o pessoal acha, como é que foi essa história toda, por quê? Porque tanto o Lucas quanto a Andrea foram observadores internacionais nas eleições. O Andrea também foi como repórter e, inclusive, conseguiu lá tirar uma casquinha do Lukashenko, né? Isso foi bem interessante. Então vamos lá, né? Sem muita delonga, vou puxar o Andrea para a tela, mas a gente vai mudar para inglês agora, beleza, galera? And all right, Andrea is on the screen. Andrea, how are you doing?
Hello, Marcelo. I'm fine, thanks. Hello, Lucas. I'm very happy to see you again after Minsk.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I was just introducing the show for today, since both of you were on Minsk for covering the elections, and this is very interesting topic because, what the mainstream media tells in Brazil is that, Belarus is a dictatorship and Lukashenko is a dictator and all those things. And you were there and both of you made some very interesting videos, and I think it's interesting to bring this perspective because here in Italy, I have a perception of elections in Italy, as in Brazil, as in Portugal, and I would like to understand how this took place, how this developed, and how this was happening there, because it really didn't look like a dictatorship for me. Well, if we consider Western societies Democrats, that didn't look like a dictatorship. So let me start with Lucas. Lucas, you made some very interesting...
No, let's start with Andrea.
Let's start with Andrea.
I'm always here, so...
Exactly, that is also true. Lucas is also the host of the house. And let's start with Andrea. Andrea, please tell us a little bit of how do you see that? How do you perceive the elections? Your main perceptions.
Well, this was not my first time in Belarus. I was in Belarus in October of the last year for working about some topics about the relationship between Italy and Belarus, because after the incident in the nuclear power station of Chernobyl, a lot of children from Belarus make some period in Italy for medical health care, for health issues, and a lot of them till now have contact with their Italian families. And I was very shocked because in the region of Gomel, till today, there are a lot of people that are speaking Italian, And for example, the director of Belarus Chitiri, the fourth channel of the state television in Gomel, was speaking Italian, and was very strange for me, but at the same time was a beautiful proof of the power of the relation between states. And I think this is one of the biggest message for the peace in the world. So I choose to come back for the elections because, right, you said, like you say now in the West, the media and the politicians say that in Belarus there is a dictatorship, that there is oppression by the government against these poor people that don't have anything to do, anything to eat, any way to have a fun. But what I saw, it's totally different because, for example, for many ways, Belarus is more free than Russia. For example, Instagram is free in Belarus, but in Russia it's blocked. Or you don't need a VPN for visit some internet pages like Instagram, Facebook, and other Meta pages, because Meta is extreme extremist organization in Russia, but not in Belarus. And it's very interesting to see that in Belarus, in Minsk, there are a lot of youth that can live free, that can be like Western youth without any difference in the clothes, in the phone that they have, or in the popular trend among the youth. And this is very interesting. For the elections, in the West, in Europe especially, we have fake Belarusian government that is named like Belarus government in exile, that is supported by the European Parliament and some structure of the European Union, but nobody recognizes them as the real government of Belarus. But they are supported for spreading their propaganda against the state of Belarus, and this is terrible because they have financial resources, they have space in the media, they have all that they want, but officially nobody recognizes this government as the legitimate government of Belarus. And as a journalist, I found the government of Belarus and the organization of the election totally open and totally free to show us what we want. For me, was completely easy to going in the pools of vote and make questions to the people that was coming for vote, or to make question to the people that was working at the pool station without any control. Nobody wanted to check my material before the publication. Nobody wanted to check my question before I tell the question, till the president. The president of Belarus, I have this big honor and this very wonderful occasion to participate at a press conference with the president Alexander Lukashenko, and nobody asked me before, do you have question for the president? I need to check. Nobody asked me that. And I gave my question to the president free. He replied, and it's most important, we had a press conference for like 4 hours, 30 minutes, and the president stopped this press conference when were no more questions from the journalists. And this is very, very important, and can communicate us that Lukashenko was ready to answer anyone journalist that was there. And
Just,
yeah.
I saw some parts of this press conference, and even that hideous BBC guy. I don't know if you know his name. That guy, it just, he's 2 seconds away from Piers Morgan from me to want to punch his face. He's so annoying. But even that guy, he made the most absurd questions, and Lukashenko answered them, well, in Lukashenko's way. That is very interesting as well. But yeah, 4 hours, 30 minutes. What we see, for example, the last 4 years of Biden in the office were press conference where he came in, he speaks, a script that was already in his hands. And yeah, and sometimes leaving space for one
with
question.
the card, and he read also stop. Right? Do you
Stop.
remember? Stop.
There were several occasions of that. I made all the clown words. Little pause. Now let people clap. Exactly. That was, and sometimes there were space for questions, and that were those market cards that would ask some very, very easy question, very, as we say in Brazil, water and sugar questions. And even then, sometimes he was, tripping and not being able to answer those questions. And 1-2 questions, and yeah, that's it. That's over. Now we have Trump on the office, and even Trump is behaving, because Trump, I'll give, as to his credit, he's much more articulated than Biden was. But even now, you see that he's diverging questions, and he's just at some point saying, that's it, and that's it because I want to. But 4 hours and a half, that's a long time. That's a long time for questions, and without any kind of control, and even waiting. Okay, no more questions. Okay, then it's over. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. This is, I think, a very, very important message for the West. And Steve Rosenberg of BBC, that I remember every time with love, because Steve it's very funny, because he pretends to say anytime that in Russia and Belarus there is no freedom of speech, that these countries are a dictatorship, and you are not free for make anything. But he is a very critical journalist from the BBC with the permanent accreditation in Russia and Belarus, and he can speak freely with Lukashenko and say face to face, I think you are a dictator and your elections are not democratic, and nobody came in his house for arrest him or take back the accreditation. So also this is an important message. And
Yeah.
I think, Marcelo, that maybe Lucas can describe very, very well the election system, because he was the international observer for this election. There were in Minsk, I don't remember exactly, but a lot of international observers from quasi any country in the world. I saw observers from Georgia, Italy, France, Spain, Brazil, Egypt, Mexico, China, Japan, and Malaysia and Indonesia. A lot of countries, and I'm sure I don't see all international observer that was present there. And Lucas, like the other, were free to visit the poll station, make question at the end, the last day of the election, the day after the election, the international delegation take a press conference in the main hall that the electoral committee organized for the press, for tell us their experience, and this was very important.
Yes, absolutely.
I had a very good
just a second, Lucas. I will vanish from the screen for a second. You won't be able to see me because I have a nuclear incident, a nuclear diaper incident here now, and I have to get clothes on the wardrobe, and I'll be just back. Please, Lucas, tell us your experience there.
Speaking or
just keep going. I will,
okay.
my camera will vanish for a second.
Okay. So I had a very good experience as observer. This was my third time in Belarus, but my first time working as observer. Uh, First of all, it's necessary to understand that if we are working in a dictatorship, uh, we assume that everything will be orchestrated, that people will tell you what you need to do, what you have to do in order to legitimize such elections. But this is not what happened in Belarus. I was very free to do anything I wanted to do in order to take my conclusions about the elections. I received there, in addition to my bad the constitution and the electoral code. I had time to read, to get acquainted with the laws of the country, with the legislation about elections, and I also got this card to uh, walk in the city freely. I had any um, time to go to any point of the city by metro, by bus, everything for free.
That's like a bus and metro and any transportation card.
Yes,
Okay.
any transportation card for free. Because I was not restricted to visit the polling stations where my guide was. I had also time to go and see by myself alone. I had this opportunity, and this was very interesting because if uh, we are in a dictatorship, we're not supposed to go anywhere uh, by ourselves. We need to be accompanied, we need to be guided, and we need to be uh, guided on what we need to do. You need to do this in order to legitimize our elections. This is what we expect from dictatorship. This is not what's happening in Belarus. Very no, it's not only free. It's also, how can I say? Uh, for example, I arrived in the special voting days, first on 2023 January, and I had such an opportunity to see how people were going to vote in order not to lose the opportunity to vote on the official day, because we don't have this in Brazil. You need to vote one day only, but they have such a system in Belarus, also in Russia. If you are not able to go on the official day, you can come to vote some days before the elections. So I saw all this process, this entire process during the special voting days. Many people were voting, and I had uh, also the opportunity to interview some of them, to make some questions. I didn't record videos of everyone because I, I I I tried to make it more natural, like an informal conversation. And people said, I don't know if I will be able to come on the official day on Sunday. So I decided to come and vote now because I really want to vote. And I prefer to vote beforehand in order uh, to express my opinions, my political will, or my gratitude to my country. This is not as only a civic duty; it's very important for them to vote. It's very different from a country because in Brazil, vote is it's mandatory for us to vote, and we don't want to vote. Yes, are you hearing me? Because okay, I'm here.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You freezed a little bit, but
Yes,
you're back.
yes, yes, yes. Okay, okay. So you know how it happens in Brazil. it's mandatory for us to vote, and we don't want to vote. And many times we prefer to pay fine and not to vote on the day. And it's completely the opposite in Belarus. It's not mandatory. People can simply not go and vote, but they want to. And if they don't have an opportunity to go on the official day, they go beforehand in order to make sure that they will participate in the electoral process. It's very interesting because it's more than good evidence because that this is true democracy. Democracy is all about the people, what the people want, how people work, how people can control the political process. And this is what happens in Belarus. If we take democracies from the Western point of view, we have many other points to analyze because the West has its own concept of democracy, liberal democracy, and wants to impose it everywhere in the world, and demands that every country adopts such concepts. But what happens in Belarus is, indeed, it's not liberal democracy. It's not according to the West. They have their own concept of democracy, but it's really democratic because people participate, people control their political process, people express their will, they are free, they don't have any political military pressure to do what the government is demanding to do. There's no such a thing. It's really free, really democratic. I'm of course speaking according to my experience as an observer, but every observer I had an opportunity to talk with had the same opinion. There were many people from all around the world, from all continents and most of all countries. Many international organizations, the European Union, of course, did not send anyone. Not as an organization, there were many Europeans there, but independent observers, not representing the European Union. But other organizations, the Shanghai Organization, the African Union, many other organizations that are much more relevant in the current geopolitics than Europe. They were there, and they had the same access that Belarus had free, democratic, and fair elections. I think the European Union doesn't agree because they before the elections had an opinion. They published their assessment about the elections before they take place. They said that this is unfair. We don't accept the elections. We don't recognize the government. But it was very expected because they had the same assessment during the 2020 elections, where many European countries, many Western countries support the opposition side. And because the opposition lost the elections, they simply decided not to recognize the government anymore, not to consider any democratic process in any electoral process in Belarus democratic and fair. So I think that the Western assessment about Belarusian elections is a good example of how the West is becoming obsolete, becoming very isolated in its geopolitical position. They have their opinion, they say what they want to say, the world simply hears and don't agree, and things simply go on. So the entire global South recognizes Belarus, things keep going on, the world keeps going. The West have their opinion, and okay, it doesn't matter.
I have a very strong opinion about one point there. That is the sole role of international observers in a country's election. Well, it's very nice and very cool that Belarus was open to this, as many countries are very open to this. I just don't see why is it necessary. This is a problem of the country. Let's put it this way. Okay, why do you need to have observers from all over the planet to see what's going on there? It's how what? Because as you just mentioned, the liberal democracy is very different than whatever you're going to see in Belarus or in Russia or in China or perhaps even in Brazil. You mentioned very well that our elections in Brazil, you are obliged to vote. You don't. The Democratic Party, as they call it, like there's a big party of democracy. It's not democratic because you are obliged. You cannot choose not to vote. Well, you can choose not to vote, but then you're going to pay a fine for it. It's a very ridiculous fine. Nonetheless, it's a fine. And the point that I am trying to make here is that
one point. The fine is ridiculous, but if you forget to pay the fine, you have many consequences. You can have your passport arrested, and so you have very very serious consequences despite the fine being ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I had a very big issue there because I vote. And I have missed two elections because I live abroad. And at some point in the middle of the sanitary emergency, my passport expired. My Brazilian passport expired. And I was not able to travel to Milan to go to the Brazilian embassy in Milan, because we were in the middle of the emergency and we could not even go to the corner, to the supermarket. And I had no way to renew my passport because my election title, my election card was expired because I had missed 2 votes. By my luck, since we were in the emergency, in Brazil, they started to do online paying the fine, and you were just putting your face on the camera and say, hey, that's me and all that. And I managed to do that because I also needed at some point to go to Portugal to do my Portuguese documents. So it was a mess. It was a big mess. And I know other people here and in Portugal that have problems with that because they immigrate underage and they did not have the voting card, and now they cannot renew their passports because they don't even have the voting card, the voting number. So they had to go back to Brazil with an expired passport to renew it, to come back, and who knows, so they can ask for their local documents like, permesso soggiorno, all those documents. It's a very complicated consequence. Please, Andrea.
And it's very interesting to note that some other type of immigrants in Italy that don't have any work, don't know the language, don't have any place to stay, they don't have problems like yours. It's not strange. Why? It's like if this is my perspective from here. It's if Italy would like to prefer another type of immigration, an immigration that can give nothing for add value to the country. But I don't want to tell about this topic because we can stay here till tomorrow and speaking about the immigration problem in Italy and how the Italian policy and bureaucracy don't make anything for fight this phenomena. I would like to add at what Lucas said that in Belarus was possible to vote against all candidates. In the skate was this option was possible to put this vote because the system for be candidate in Belarus, it's very centralized. And at the end, after the collecting of the signature from the people, At the end, it's the Central Electoral Commission that can value your question for be a candidate. For this reason, it's possible, it's an official option, vote against all candidates. And in my experience, Belarus is the only one country that gives to the people this option. And another date that can be interesting, I make a lot of interview, and some people were very critically about the war in Ukraine. And they say, no, I'm not supporting Russia in the military operation in Ukraine, but I will vote for Lukashenko because he was done a lot for the Belarusian people. And this is important. Lukashenko was candidate as independent, not affiliated by any party. And the people was voting him for his work, not for his ideology, not because he likes some symbols or some idea. The people vote him for what he done for the people.
That what you just said is extremely interesting. I didn't know about it. That you could vote against everybody else. Everybody. I personally, Lucas is graduated in law. If I'm not saying any bullshit, but Lucas is graduated in law, and in Brazil you have the syndicate, the union for the lawyers. And to advocate, you need to have the card from the union. You have to be on the union. But you just don't go there and subscribe to the union. You have to apply for a test. It's a national test. It's a huge thing. And
in Italy, there is the same system. You need to make a state exam for be a lawyer.
Yeah, and perhaps I will say something wrong, and please correct me, Lucas. But in this test, you not only has to make things right, you not only have to get the questions correct, but if you get it wrong, you lose points. So if you get it right, you gain the points. If you get it wrong, you lose points. You don't.
Unfortunately, I'm graduated in law, but fortunately, I'm not a lawyer, so I never did this test. I don't know how it works.
That's a good start, as they say. But that's my understanding. I may be saying so because I'm not graduated in law and I never did it, but I have lawyers, friends of mine. Yeah, nobody's perfect. That explained this to me at some point. And I think that a just electoral system would need to have something like that. You not only vote for the candidate that you want, but you vote against someone that you really don't want. So I really don't want this guy here. This is a problem. And because otherwise we get what we are seeing not only in Brazil, but nowadays basically entire Europe, United States even. You get a 51% candidate. And even this 51%, it's sometimes almost equal or lower than the abstentions, the people that didn't even care to go voting, like we see in the Great Britain, like we saw in France. Italy here was, it's a complicated system. I never understood this. In Brazil, we see this for 3 or 4 elections that we see, the 33% candidate. And you have 30% abstentions or voted for no one. And so who is these people representing?
Maybe Marcelo, do you remember some episode during the elections in Italy when the people for vote against all put in the vote schedule some piece of ham or some mortadella and brought their heat also this, maybe do you remember? But in the Italian system, it's not possible to vote against us. It's only possible to abstain from the vote. And it's not a case that in Italy there is the majority that choose not vote, because the people lose any trust in the politicians and in the political system, in the Italian political system. Now, maybe Giorgia Meloni, it's at the government with the 22-23% of the votes, but this means maybe 12-11% of the total people that have the right to vote.
Exactly. That's more or less the point. We have the same in Brazil with Lula and Bolsonaro. Lula won by a fraction. And if you see, the abstentions were so high that at some point you say, who's this guy going to govern for? It's nobody. And you mentioned Meloni here. We don't see any type of movement. Some years ago we had Cinque Stelle. They jump in just, I guess, 1 year before I arrived in Italy. And on the beginning, when I arrived here, I was learning Italian still. By 6 months that I was here, some people were telling me, "You speak Italian better than Di Maio." So yeah, that was the prime minister of Italy, the guy that could barely speak Italian. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of true. I listened to the guy talking, and I'm still very macaronic when I speak Italian. But yeah, that was true. So coming back to this, to the topic of the elections.
You need more trust in yourself because you speak very well Italian. I would like to speak Russian like you speak Italian.
Yeah, but that's a very difficult language. I would like to speak Portuguese as good as I speak Italian. No, but coming back to the Lucas always thinks like, oh dear Lord, what am I doing shows with this dude? And so let's try to come back to the elections here. You had the great one thing that I want to say about the elections. I saw the videos from you and from Lucas. It was very interesting, the process of observation. You had not special seats, you had like a kind of couch, very comfortable couch to stay on and watch people voting. I saw some people commenting. I don't know how you have patience for those guys on Twitter, Andrea. I really need to get some lessons from you. Some people voting, asking like, "Oh, you didn't ask to see the voting bill?" And you were like, "Yeah, that's kind of a process. People vote, fold the bill, and put on the box." I don't have. I think in Brazil it's even forbidden to ask or to be close to the people, to the person when it's voting. But how was the welcoming? I would not say welcoming is not a good word. The process for both of you to stay in there, and it's probably some very weird situation where people are doing something very private, I will put like that, and your guys were there talking. How did you feel on this situation? How did you guys saw the response from the people? You already said some people were very welcoming and saying that yeah, we're here because we believe on the system, and this is very interesting for me to listen. We can start with Andrea.
Okay. Well, the system, like we said, it's in my opinion, the Belarusian system. It's very similar to the Italian system, and I found the people more comfortable with the vote. I work in Italy. I worked in the poll station during the elections time, and a lot of people, especially the old people, have had a lot of doubts a lot of questions how it's working the vote, because every elections in Italy, it's very funny because every government try to change the electoral law and try to make some modification in the bills, no? And at every election, there are people that are not sure about the procedures, and they ask a lot of questions. I need to put the things here or here. I need to write some name and who is working. But no, in Belarus, the people, especially
Una
the
marca di
old
voto.
people, especially the whole people, was very comfortable with the system. They were very sure they can take the bill, go in the post station for voting, take the vote, and take the bill back. Nobody wanted to check the bill, of course. Were not military, not soldier, not police that pretend to check their vote. I read some people, some journalists that try, some blogger that try to wrote and to share this fake about some check in the bills, but was completely a fake news. Nobody pretend to see the vote. Also, President Lukashenko was coming for vote in his poll station, and sometimes in the Italian history, the prime minister pretend to show to the cameras his vote, but Lukashenko vote and secretly put the bills in the box without some special occasion. He take a speech with the press, but the procedure of vote also for him was following the law. And this is very, very important, and can show us that in Belarus the law is equal for everyone, from the president to the last person in the country. And you don't need to have fun with the Belarusian law, because the police is very strictly with the regulation. You can imagine, I was out to the central press room in the Palace of the Republic in the center of Minsk, and I crossed the street not following the regulation, because I don't cross the street in the appropriate location, and the police stopped me and make me a ticket. So I tried to say that, but guys, sorry, I was here in the central room of the press. I have the accreditation. No, it's not the right place to cross the street. Ticket. Okay. So I try to make the Italian of the situation, but I have the accreditation.
Yeah,
But don't
you
work.
know,
Law is law.
that's extremely interesting. That's yeah. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're carrying with you. You can put your your €5 apart. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And funny.
but
I asked to the
you got
police,
a ticket for us.
yeah, I asked the police, but guys, after this ticket, can I come back in Belarus? They look at me and say, like, what stupid question? Of course you can. This is only a ticket for pedestrian infraction. It's not condemned for life imprisonment. What do you ask?
Well, yeah, that's a fair question, but I would have the same attitude as the police officer. Come on, dude, it's just a ticket. Did you pay the ticket? I know, I got curious.
I paid the ticket, but not at the policeman. You need to go in like in the postal office or in a state bank and pay the ticket. But it's a very, very fast process, and I make this like 10 minutes, so not a problem. But the law is the law.
The law is the law, and since you pay the ticket, you can come back to the country. That's no problem. Lucas,
that's interesting when you compare to Brazil, Marcelo. You know that we also have law, we also have bureaucracy, but it's not for everyone. It's for certain groups, and certain groups are allowed to violate what they want to violate. Uh, especially when we consider economic factors, or if in this situation, I think that a foreigner violating the transit law, they could simply go home. There is no problem. This would be a very normal situation in Brazil, but it doesn't happen there. And when we take the democratic concept into account, and we see that one of the basic principles for democracy is the rule of law. Is that law must be respected by everyone. Law is for everyone. Law is for the citizens. It's for native, for foreigners, for politicians, for the military, for everyone. So if we take this concept into account, that the empire of the law must be applied for everyone. So we conclude that Belarus is really a democratic country. Maybe not in the liberal terms of the West, because these liberal terms of the West demand not only political democracy, but accompanied with political democracy, liberal economy. Not only liberal economy, but specific geopolitical alignment with all the countries they consider as democratic. So they don't have this situation in Belarus, but they have their own democracy, their own rule of law. And we saw this. We witnessed this process, and we can surely say that Belarus is a democratic country. I'm saying this not because I
Did you
really
get the
care
tickets,
about-
Lucas?
No. I don't say this because I really care about democracy in itself, because I don't like such a thing to be describing the countries between what is democratic, what is not democratic. I don't like this, but
Yeah,
but
me neither.
yes. But I'm saying this based on my own experience, on my real experience. I'm saying this in based on what I saw there. Not only this time. This time I was there working for a political process. Yes, I was working, and I can describe what I saw in the electoral process. But the other times I was there, it is a very free, very open country for everyone. You don't have any problems. You don't have any restrictions to do anything. You don't need to respect the law, of course, but it's a very free country. Maybe we can say we can go deeper in this analysis and compare with other. Of course, I always like to compare with my own reality, with what we know about our countries, because the basic ground for any analysis is comparison with your own country. And of course, I don't think my country is so democratic as Belarus is, because we don't have such a freedom here. There is a time you can't go to the street, you can't go out, you simply can't. Not because the law says you can't, because the reality on the ground says you can't go out. This is not happening in Belarus. And Belarus is a country under very strict pressure, geopolitical pressure. There is the biggest war in Europe since the World War II happening very close to Belarus. There is a very high risk of escalation on the borders, because there are there's a very substantial number of Belarusian expatriates fighting for Ukraine. People who left Belarus after the elections in 2020, and now they are fighting for Ukraine, and they promise to go back to Belarus and to overthrow the government, to kill Lukashenko, and so on. And the country is surviving. The country is passing through all this time peacefully. I have been in Belarus in 2020 2023, 2024, and now this year, it's very peaceful. It's very calm. There were some expectations for pressure or provocations during this electoral process because of these militias of expatriates fighting Ukraine. Not only fighting Ukraine, but also they are based in Poland, they are based in the Baltics, in other European countries. They are trained, they are armed by these governments. Even though they say publicly that they want to start a war in their own country, they are armed by European countries. So there were some expectations of provocations, but it was very peaceful, very calm. I think they are afraid of Belarusian new military assets. They now have, of course, they now have nuclear weapons. They will have Areshnik soon. So Belarus is in a position that they don't want war, but they don't tolerate provocation. If there is a provocation, they will take if necessary, the extreme measures not to go to war. Because Belarus is a country that was totally destroyed during the World War II. It's not like Russia, because Russia is the biggest country in the world, so there are many parts of Russia that were not destroyed by the war. But Belarus was entirely destroyed. The entire country was rebuilt during the Soviet times. People there are very aware of what a war is, of what are the consequences of conflicts. And Lukashenko has such a concern about the security, about peace. And this is what makes him so popular now. Not only about history, of course, he saved his country from the entire neoliberal shock that affected Russia, of this. But now he is being able to free his country from the war, to protect his country, protect his people, despite the provocations, despite the pressure. He is acting like a true peacemaker. And people that respect this, because, of course, they had their relatives who died in the World War II. They have their relatives now dying, both for Ukraine and for Russia. And they don't want to fall in this hole of war. They don't want to suffer such consequence of such a tragedy that like a war. And Lukashenko is becoming even more popular than he was before, precisely because of this. He's being able to work as a peacemaker. He's being able to avoid his his country coming to war. When all the paths, the neighboring countries are imposing on Belarus, lead to war. And he is very emphatic in this. We don't want war. If necessary, if we have nuclear weapons, we have extreme arsenal, we have all we need to protect our country, not going to war, because our country know war, our people know war, and we don't want this. He says this all the time. Not only Lukashenko says this, very all of his team, his ministers, they are saying this. They are very emphatic at this point. Belarus doesn't want to go to war, and I think it's a very important point when we analyze why he's so popular. Okay, 87% of voters approving him. Oh, I don't think it's unrealistic. If you know the Belarusian reality, you understand why they love Lukashenko, why they vote for him, and even people who are against Lukashenko as a politician are now voting for him because they know that he's the politician who's now able to avoid war.
Yeah, that in fact, this is a very extreme trend here in Europe on East Europe as much, but also inside Europe. Because people have to understand, and Andrea perhaps even can say a little bit about this here in Italy. But my perception in Italy is that people here don't have a don't have a clue, the smallest clue on what's happening in the planet, outside, their little city or town or, I don't know, paesi. People have no idea. No, not a clue. Oh, there's a war in Russia against Ukraine. Oh, damn Russians! Yeah, do you know that the gas that Italy uses, 40% of the gas that Italy uses comes from Russia? Who cares? Well, dude, have you looked at your bill? It's winter time. I'm looking at my bill every month now, and I'm not happy. So I don't care if you don't care about Russia or Russians. I don't need to care about Russians. Look at your bill, for Christ's sake. Just that. Oh no, but that's bad times ahead and all that. No, it's not bad times ahead and all that. It was all good. We had a good life. We had a decent life, and now you don't. Do you know why? Yeah, because Meloni and this far right and this crazy. No, dude, that's not what's happening. Please wake up. And it's the same in Brazil, of course. But I see the trend on, we recently saw in Romania where, well, the democratic elections were canceled by order of Brussels, which is not in Romania, by the way. And we saw this in Georgia, and we've seen this in Serbia. We've seen this in Slovakia. We've seen this in Hungary, and Macron is just facing his second vote of no trust in a prime minister, which probably will pass because the guy is just incompetent. And as I mentioned, Great Britain, they vote against war. This guy came to power, this what's the dude? He has a name that looks like a chick. He comes to power, and first thing he does, pick up the microphone and say, "We are going to support Ukraine as much." This is not what people want. People don't care about Ukraine. That's the truth. That's the truth.
This is the reason, Marcelo, because in Italy and in Germany there are the biggest percent of the population that is against the sanctions against Russia. And I also asked to Lucas that he spoke about the peaceful climate in Belarus during the elections. We don't need to forget that Belarus have a president that it's ready to take a rifle with him for defend themselves and for defend his right to stay as the rule of the country, to rule the country. We saw that in 2020 during the so-called protest of the Belarusian opposition, while the West was supporting with money and other things like propaganda, the meeting against Lukashenko, and Lukashenko take a rifle, an assault rifle, a K-47, and was ready to defend himself and his right as a president of Belarus. This is very important to remember. And like you say, Marcelo, Italian citizens, Italians are paid and are paying right now the price for the Western war against Russia. And unfortunately, this price is paid not by the politicians that are make the sanctions against Russia, but from the people that had nothing to do with it.
And they don't care. The truth is, they don't care. They have no idea. Let's say the best thing I can tell you that happened is that with this conflict and the sanctions and all that, is that vastly increased the number of blonde chicks working at McDonald's. That's the only halfly good thing that happened here in Italy. But the truth is that we have a migrant crisis. And as I mentioned before, now we cannot say that Europeans are racist anymore because they hate white people as much as they hate black people, with the Ukrainians coming in. We have soaring price. We have lowering the industry. And Italy, unlike people are used to know, because people are used to say, oh yeah, Germany is the big industry powerhouse, but Italy is a huge industry powerhouse. It's as big or not bigger or even bigger than France, not Germany. But Germany going down, well, we still have Italy. Plus, Italy is a big food house. We have a lot of agriculture here, and all that is going down the tubes. The tourism this year, did you saw the videos of the beaches this year? Italy was having problems with tourists because I mentioned this before. When I've been to Egypt, it was packed with Russians in Egyptian resources. Do you know where those Russians were not? Well, in Ravenna, in Rimini, they were not here. They were not here this year. They were not here the year before. They were spending their good rubles in Egypt. And I spoke to some of them. Well, but you have the sanctions, you have problems because Egypt adopted the sanctions, of course. You have problems? Yeah, no, I came with rubles. I was able to exchange my rubles. Not officially, but I was able to exchange them. Not a big issue at all. So people are not paying attention that none of this is working. We are losing ground. And I have a question here now that is interesting because I have no idea about this. From Julio Cesar, he asked, companies like IBM forced Belarusians employees to move to Poland and Latvia 4 years ago. Do you guys know about this? And if so, do you know what the measures Belarus took about this, if it is the case? Any of you know about this?
Lucas, please.
No, I don't know if there is a guideline or directive of measures to be taken in this case. I really don't know. But this has been a very common situation recently since the sanctions started, and I don't think it's a big issue, at least for Belarus now. I really don't know anything more specific.
Andrea, have you heard this before?
No. So I have the same opinion of Lucas, I think.
Yeah. So I think do you guys want to, we are about 1 hour now. Do you guys want to say anything else about the elections that you consider is important and we have not covered?
I will close my life today with you, and we'd say that the opening that we saw in Belarus was fantastic, and this is the main proof that the Belarusian government had nothing to hide to the public opinion or the media. All we were free to go everywhere, speak with anyone, and film what we wanted without any control, without any limitation. And this is the most important message that needs to be shared with the West.
Lucas?
Absolutely, I have the same opinion. I always like to say that when media is one-sided, when there is only one opinion being imposed, and the other side is being censored. We need to take care. We need to be careful and start looking for other sources of information. You don't find anything interesting, anything true about Belarus in Western mainstream media, and it includes Brazil, because I don't consider Brazil as part of the West, but our mainstream media in Brazil is nothing more than a translation of Western American and European media, and they don't have any kind of good source in Belarus. They don't send correspondents. They are not there. They don't know what is really happening on the ground. But they receive messages from their partners in Europe and in the US, and they say, "Oh, it's unfair. It's undemocratic." So cover the situation, saying that it is not democratic, and that's what our people receive here in Brazil. That's what you hear in Europe, in the US, and so on. But we work there. We know the situation on the ground. Not only Andrea and me, but many observers and journalists from all around the world. There were many people from relevant international organizations from the global south, African Union, Shanghai Organization, groups that are much more relevant than the European Union, than the United Nations itself. They were there and they approved the elections. They said it's absolutely normal. It's absolutely according to the democratic process. There is no possible critique against these elections. And of course, you will not hear about this in Western media. They will not say that there were representatives from international organizations there approving the elections. But there were. We know. We were there. I was in the press conference of every organization present there, and all of the representatives say the same. It's fair elections. It's normal. It's democratic. So
Kaja Kallas, an extremely relevant personality in the global, foreign affairs place, said it's a sham. So yes, we have to go with that, right?
Yes, the same girl who said that we need to divide Russia in 192 nation states. Yes, we can see clearly. Yes, we can see very clearly who is against the Union State, who is against Russia and Belarus, and who is friendly with the Union State. And this is all. That's all. I don't have anything to add.
No, that's perfect, guys. Which, by the way, since we mentioned, dictatorships, Andrea was also a couple of weeks or month already in Venezuela and had a very interesting experience there. And we have to get together. I'm very curious. I saw the videos you made. I thought it was a very interesting experience. We have to arrange a day to talk about that, because Brazilians need to.
This was my second time in Venezuela, and you can imagine, as a person from Europe, I had my head full of this information about Caracas, like the capital of the crime in the world, where you can be killed if you make a walk in the street.
And that's Rio de Janeiro, dude.
Yes, that's really my city.
But sure, not Caracas.
No, yeah, I saw the videos. It was very interesting. I even mentioned there in Shitter, I wrote you that a lot of the images that I saw that you made on the street, on hotels, and so on, it really reminded me a lot in cities in Brazil. like Rio de Janeiro itself. I'm not talking about the crime. Okay, I'm talking about architecture and the streets and people selling things on the street, which is normal. It's a country that's facing a lot of issues. We have here in Italy, we have public street fairs and stuff like that. It's not a little different, but it happens in countries that are facing economical issues, as it is the case of Brazil. But it looked a lot like streets of São Paulo, streets of Rio de Janeiro. It's probably the same era of architectural designs from these big cities, I would say. So we have to arrange a show sometime to talk about that. Just before we go, if you guys have 5 minutes, I would like to drop 2 drops on the conflict today on Ukraine. Andrea, you just before we come live, you were telling me that you were covering some attacks today. Could you talk about this a little bit? And I would like to know about Kursk, because during live stream Thursday, someone entered in the channel and said, "Oh yeah, Ukraine just took Kursk and now opened its path for 6 another cities. Russia is gone." And I was like, dude, do you know what Russia even is? Take a look at the map.
Well, what's happened now in Kursk, it's this. Ukrainian forces are trying to occupy some part of Russia, and in the Western media, they pretend to occupy the entire region of Kursk, but in the reality, they occupied only a small piece of the region of Kursk, and they held till now only one important, but really it's a small cities of Surda. And there they are committing a lot of crimes. And Patrick Lancaster, American reporter that it's now in the Kursk region, have made a lot of video. You can find it in YouTube about the Ukrainian crimes in the Kursk region. Well, this morning I was in Rostov, in the place where Ukrainian drones hit yesterday and this night some civilian houses, some civilians building, and this unfortunately is the standard for the Ukrainian drones in Donbass and in the Russian regions near the near Rostov or Voronezh, because they try to terrorize in the population. They want to make pressure to the population and say, look, you are at war with us. You need to feel that you are at war with us. You don't need to feel sure in your city. You don't need to feel secure in your cities. And thanks God, today were not victims, not injured, but the risk was very high because 40-50 meters from the position where the drone hit a civilian building, that were the regional hospital. And so if the drone were maybe intercepted by Russian anti-aircraft system or by the electronic warfare system, this drone can hit the hospital. And I cannot exclude that the region was hit because there is an hospital there, unfortunately. Because in my opinion, Ukrainian forces want to make pressure to the population. They want to pressure the population and say that change your government, make a revolution maybe, because you are at war against us, against the West. In the other part of the front line, the initiative still to be in the hand of Russian army. They are advancing, especially in the Donetsk People Republic region. And in the last week, the Russian forces are conquered a lot of cities in the DNR region. So I think that Zelensky is trying to take Kursk, the Kursk territory that the Ukrainian forces are occupying, till possible negotiation mediated by Trump, because he want to take this occupation at the peace table and say, look, I have a part of your territory. If you want your territory back, you need to give me back something. This is the tactic. But in my opinion, it's not working very well.
It's not going to work whatsoever. I mean, I've checked the maps, the map of Kursk. It's a farmland. You have, when you say cities and you look at the map, most of the time the people say, oh yeah, Ukraine took this city, or Russia liberated again this city from Kursk, and you look at the map, it's like 10 houses and a church or something like that. It's a big farmland. Not saying it's unimportant, just saying that the Russians are going to, what do you want for that? 5 rubles? Here you go. And we're buying it back from you. That's the exchange rate that we can give you for that. Lucas, do you want to say something about that before we?
No, I have the same opinion. It's a kind of desperate measure in order to come to negotiations, if negotiations happen, with something to say that Ukraine has something to offer Russia in exchange for something else. It's not working. Will not work. If we have negotiations, it's not clear that we have some negotiations, because Russians said many times that Kursk invasion was the point of no return in the war. After this invasion, there will be no negotiations more, because Moscow can simply not trust the enemy. So it's a big question if there will be such negotiations. But if we have negotiations, they will take place on Russian terms. The defeated side in a war cannot say what it wants. The winning side says, I want this. You do this, or otherwise hostilities will continue. So
you do what I want, or I will win more.
yes, absolutely. And as you said, these regions Ukraine managed to control in Kursk region are violates. They're not big relevant cities. They are border zone violates, and mainstream media manages to conquer the public opinion by saying that Ukraine is occupying Russia's Kursk region. But Kursk region is very big. The city of Kursk is not even threatened by this Ukraine invasion. They are only in a small portion of land on the border zone. So it's not as relevant as Western media tries to make it appear. It's not so relevant, and it's not ever something new, because Ukraine has been attacking Russian recognized territory since the beginning of the special operation. I was in Belgrade last year, and this was the most dangerous experience on all my trips. I have been in Donbass twice, one time with Andrea, and I have been in Belgrade. And Belgrade was very dangerous, and very many attacks all the time. And Ukraine was at the same time invading the border zone. They couldn't occupy territory, but they were invading. So this is nothing new. In Kursk, the difference that they managed to occupy some territory to make some resistance against Russian attacks, and there is a battle happening there. But this battle cannot change the game of the entire war. So, but of course, Western media is playing its role in the war and the information camp by trying to make it appear more relevant than it really is.
Just like Robotino. Yeah.
Yeah, do
Guys,
you remember Rabotino when they
ah,
coming there? Oh, the 2023 Ukrainian offensive that pretend to reach Crimea and then
yeah, I remember in one of the Ukrainian channels on Telegram that I follow, they made a super cool video. They are good at making videos, these Ukrainians. Super cool video, which the entire screen of the monitor was Robotino, basically. So it looked like a big win, you know, these red dots growing, 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 growing. And then you look at the map, again, it's like five houses and a church. I don't think there is even a church in Robotino. For sure, there's no McDonald's. So too small for for making the news. Guys, I will thank you very much for this show today. I was trying. I wanted to do this since we saw that you two were together there, and you even marked me on Twitter. Hey, we're here. We thought about you. That was amazing. And I wanted to put this show together, and I think it was an amazing show. I hope people listen to it. I will put subtitles, of course. Eventually, you guys know, eventually when I have time to do it, I'll put the subtitles so people can watch this and start to have a little bit of self-criticism. You don't have to believe in what we say. You don't have to, but just have some self-criticism. Do our country work more or less like this? Imagine that this is not true. Does Italy or Portugal or Brazil, does it work like they said it works in Belarus, in Belarusia? If it doesn't, it's wrong. And, you know, have this in your mind. And of course, I'm saying that's not because they are not telling the truth. Of course, they are telling the truth. They were there. They sent videos. They post videos on Twitter, on their Telegram channels, and you know all the links are on the descriptions. Andrea, Lucas, everybody knows, but Andrea, do you want to tell us where people can find you? Because now you are working out. You have now a news company. I don't know if it's yours or you're working for it.
no, it's not, unfortunately it's not mine.
So,
the people from Italy can see my material in the television on the channel Bio Blue. Sometimes I provide them some reportage from here or other from other countries from the multipolar world, like Belarus. And in Telegram, in my channel Andrea Lucidi, or in the internet page and Telegram channel of the press agency International Reporters.
Amazing. I'll put all the links. Some of those links I don't have. I will ask you then to send me later. I'll put all the links on the description. So guys, follow people in Italy that perhaps are watching us on TikTok. I don't know, because TikTok only delivers things to Italy. I don't know why. I speak in Portuguese to Brazilians and Portuguese people. There's a lot of Italians flooding my TikTok and going away because they don't understand Portuguese. Of course. So if people on TikTok follow Andrea Lucidi, the links will be on the description on YouTube. And I will thank you guys again for this amazing show on this Saturday. Have a great weekend. And all of you that came to watch us today or will watch later, have a great weekend. And we see you later, guys. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, Marcelo. Ciao. Ciao, Lucas.
Ciao, ciao.